The case of Alyssa Hunter's elimination is something that I find quite interesting. You have probably seen posts and videos discussing how Latina Queen seems to be somewhat underestimated by production and either end up leaving the competition very soon or getting a villain added altogether. Aki recently released a great video talking specifically about this issue, and I suggest you go watch it as this video is an excellent premise to this one. So I'll leave a link in the description and I suggest you go watch that first. I usually discuss topics like this during the main reviews for the season, but the case of Alyssa Hunter is something quite special, and because of that it merits its own video. That's because this is one of the few cases in which the trail of breadcrumbs is especially thick, with tons of examples all pointing out to the same outcome. She was cast to be a villain, but looks like she gave production nothing to work with, and as a result, she was quickly dispatched from the competition. And in this video we are going to follow the clues one by one and try to understand what really happened to Alyssa Hunter and why. As you may know, part of the auditioning process for RuPaul's Drag Race is going through a psychological evaluation. On one hand, it's a necessary step to ensure everyone's safety, because some people might not take isolation very well and possibly become a danger to themselves or to others. What many won't tell you, and surely would never admit to it, is that psychological evaluations are extremely useful to get a general idea of who you are, how you behave, and how will you respond to stressful situations. And this knowledge can be incredibly useful if your job is to encourage the development of storylines for reality television. It's no secret that pageant queens often share some of the same characteristics. They all seem to be very competitive, they have an incredible fashion taste, and due to their competitive nature, they can also be extremely critical of others, but especially of themselves. But you see, one thing is to provide anecdotal evidence, another is using a statistically proven instrument to conclude how much of you I can manipulate in order to transform you into a television character. And this, for me, is what happened to Alyssa. She was cast to be a villain. Now, during my review of the first premiere, I talked extensively about Alyssa's edit and put a strong accent on the difference between what happened on set and what we saw on the final edit. And despite how much the edit exaggerated Alyssa's perception for the viewers, I think it's still safe to conclude that during filming, she was not particularly excited about Willow's fashion, and surely field producers must have noticed that, because after the second premiere, during episode 3, something very curious happened. And this is clue number 1. The main challenge was a ball. 3 dresses for each queen. 2 they brought from home, 1 they made in the workroom. After watching the runway, many people came to the exact same conclusion. Why was Alyssa just safe? For many, she was the clear winner of the episode, but even if you don't agree with that, I'm sure the overwhelming majority of the viewers would agree that her presentation deserved, at minimum, to be high instead of just safe. And when you have so many people agreeing on something, it usually means that there is something there. And in addition to that, Willow winning the challenge didn't really seem to make much sense. And I'm saying this as a huge fan of Willow. I love her. If you watched the first review, you know that I take her in high regard, but even despite that, I am not sure she really deserved to win that challenge. A high position? Sure, she looked great, but with so many other queens bringing an incredible level of fashion and detail like Angeria, Diabetti, Bosco, and Alyssa, why would Willow win? So at this point you have Alyssa, who should have been at least high but was knocked down to just being safe. Then you have Willow, a queen that should have been high at best, but won the challenge. If it sounds familiar, that's because we've seen things like these happen before. As a matter of fact, the similarities are uncanny. Back in season 12, where there was a split premiere as well, mind you, Brita seemed to be upset about Aiden's attitude toward the group challenge of episode 3. The episode after, Brita voiced her frustration in seeing Hayden sleeping in the workroom while everyone was working on their outfit. And curiously, her dress and presentation was then knocked down a notch by the judges, putting her in the bottom and up for elimination, while Aiden was declared safe by the judges. It kinda looks as if the judges went out of their way to make decisions that would fuel a conflict between the two. Kind of, right? One goes up a notch, the other one goes down a notch. Do you start to see the similarities? And then what happened after that? Well, the episode after, Aiden was safe, despite a lackluster performance on the Maxi Challenge, while Brita was in the bottom 3. After the judges' critiques, the infamous Untucked happened, and Brita took the bait, and her fate was sealed, with all the consequences that we got to know so well. She was then saved by the judges from the bottom two, and instead, Nikki Doll went home. Hero's choice, Nikki Doll, isn't it? What, you don't think so? Well, that's because you haven't watched Taki's video. I told you it was required viewing for this video. You're terrible. You're a terrible viewer. Go watch that video. So going back to this season, what happened in episode 4? Can we find a parallel again? Well, the challenge was an acting challenge, acting in a series of clips for a super teaser. We, as the audience, only got to see 1 or 2 seconds of a very high-paced and highly edited footage, making it almost impossible to evaluate the queens' performances. So, despite so many queens performing incredibly well during rehearsal, and despite the queens themselves spilling the tea on who did great and who did worse, Willow was somehow put in a high position, while Maddie and Bosco, the other breakthrough stars of this episode next to Deja and Angeria, were just safe. And what about Alyssa? Well, despite an okay performance, but an incredible runway, she was put in the bottom 3. Even though every other queen agreed that Georgios, including Georgios herself, should have been in that position. What I find incredibly annoying is that during the critiques, every queen was encouraged by the judges to open up, talk about their feelings, show their vulnerabilities. That's where the gold is, right?
I think it's time for you to show some of the things that you may be afraid to show.
I'm so sorry.
You never have to apologize for emotion.
Now, let the healing begin and let the water flow. You have the story to tell.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the story. Allow us to fall in love with you, because you'll find that in that vulnerability, that's where the gold is.
Well, not Alyssa. When she tried to open up, she was just cut short, adding an extra layer of frustration, if you will. And this is where things finally diverge, because differently from what happened to Brita in season 12, in this Untucked, nothing happened. Alyssa just gracefully resigned to the idea that it just didn't work for her. She tried her best, and it just wasn't enough. Back in the main stage, differently from Brita, she was put in the bottom. And despite an incredibly intrusive and misdirecting editing during the lip sync, everyone still managed to see through it and appreciate Alyssa's top-notch performance. And the producers probably even had a feeling that Alyssa might not be the kind of queen to take the bait, because while preparing for this runway, she was given a mirror moment, something that usually each queen get before going home. Unless you're Utica, of course. In that case, no mirror moment for you, and you get a last-minute villain added. What I find curious is that we know from the Roscoe's viewing party that the producers themselves asked the queens to discuss different topics during the mirror moments. Rosé spilled that tea. So it looks like they kept the door open for Alyssa to sashay this episode. And in addition to that, Aki already went into much details on how acting challenges have historically been used in favor or against the Latina queens, who don't speak English as their native language, either by praising their fun and quirky way of talking, or by criticizing them for embodying a stereotype of the loud and queen that it's always at 100. Which is exactly what we got during the critiques. And you would know this if you went and watched this video like I asked you before. You are just terrible. We are trying to be supportive of each other's, you know? You have all of these content farms that are coming. Come on, it works only if the audience works with us as well. Go watch it. Are you done watching? Okay, now let's talk about the lip sync. The lip sync was. That's what I'm going to say about it. Because the camera cuts and first-person shots are dialed to 100. We almost never see full body shots. We almost never understand what's really happening. Alyssa was continuously cut in the middle of doing things. We even have 2 negative confessionals regarding her performance. One from Cornbread and one from Willow. And as the queens walk on stage, we're always shown Alyssa walking away from us, but Carrie walking toward us, giving the impression, giving the feeling that one is performing better than the other. You may not think about this kind of things, but if you watch something without not paying much of attention, this kind of editing leaves you with a very specific feeling. And then at some point, emphasis on Alyssa's performance was only given when her money shooting gun failed to work. How coincidental. At some point, Carrie even teleports from front to back. Alyssa's gloves disappears for no reason. The editing during this lip sync was exceptionally shady, and trust me, I review editing for Drag Race including the lip sync. I know where to look. This was exceptionally shady. So, in conclusion, what can I say about this situation? Well, for a starter, during my review for episode 1, I draw attention on all the ways in which the edit was exaggerated in a negative way toward Alyssa. Back then I thought it was the beginning of a villain edit for her, but she gave them nothing to work with, and luckily I was wrong. I mean, I can be pissed about it, but frankly, this is the main reason why we have a show like this. It's not just about the fun of it, it's also to draw attention on how editing can exaggerate situations and try to mitigate social media overreaction a little bit. Because you know that historically the show doesn't seem to care much about what happened to these queens once they leave the show. Still, at this point, one question remains. Why was she edited so poorly in episode 1 if she was not going to be a villain after all? And I think the answer is pretty simple. To perform a character assassination since the very beginning. To somehow avoid getting people emotionally invested in another beautiful Latina queen who was showed the door despite performing fairly well and even winning the lip sync for her life. No amount of editing could ever cover the fact that Alyssa performed better than Carrie. Even by Carrie's own admission, she said she couldn't even move that much. Everyone saw it. Even those who don't know about production's cheap editing tricks. And at the end of the day, let me tell you one thing. I'm not happy about Alyssa's mistreatment on this season, not in the slightest. But knowing how much south this could have gone if she let her guard down even just for a moment, I'm relieved. I'm very relieved actually. So let's wish Alyssa the best for her drag career, and if you are on social media, why don't you go and follow her? I'm sure that seeing that number rise, even if you're not that savvy social media wise, it's still a great encouragement, especially in this moment. I hope that this video entertained you, maybe even learned something new, why not? If so, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications because YouTube seems to be quite forgetful when it comes to tell our subscribers that a new video is out. A special thanks goes to our patrons for supporting the channel, and a shout out to Michael Azat Cook, Adrian Grass, and Brett Dog, who just joined. If you wish to support the channel as well, you can find a link to our Patreon in the video description. And I encourage you to support us, because soon I will be investing in a new machine, so a little bit of support would be more than appreciated. The complete review for episode 4 will be out as soon as possible. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and have a great week.